Hello there guys, welcome back to another video on the cheap Porsche Boxster S. Now we're going to be giving this thing its first oil change today. So we'll be taking you through a step-by-step guide exactly how to change out the oil and the oil filter on one of these cars. But most importantly, I'm interested to see what the state of the oil filter looks like. Now, as you know, some of these cars do suffer from IMS bearing failure. So if we remove the oil filter and it's full of metal shavings, then there's a good chance our IMS bearing is on its way out. So yeah, I'm looking forward to getting that original oil filter removed. Now before we get into things, do me a massive favor, give this video a like. It really does help me out and it lets me know that you want to see more videos on this car. Now I want to say a massive thanks to Car Service Packs. They have kindly supplied me with an oil service kit for this car. So here we have 10 litres of 5W40, an oil filter, a new crush washer, and here we have an oil top-up kit which contains a pair of disposable gloves, lint-free dipstick wipe, disposable cardboard funnel, and a service record sheet. This should come in handy. Now if you want to check out Car Service Packs, or maybe you want to get yourself a service kit for your car, details will be down in the description box below, along with a discount code as well. Now then, first things first, let's get the engine fired up. Let's get the engine oil nice and warm. It's going to help it drain a lot easier. Okay, so just going to leave this to sit for 5 minutes or so, just to get the engine nice and warm while I get all of the tools ready. Okay, so engine should now be nice and warm. So we'll switch it off. Now we can head underneath. So then, first things first, we want to drain the oil. So it takes an 8mm Allen bit just on that drain plug right there. So I've cracked it loose. It should not be tight. Oh, before I remove that, actually, just gonna pop out the dipstick and release the oil fill, just so that it drains a lot easier. Okay, bombs away. There we are, it's draining nicely. I don't see too many chunks in this. I mean, most of this is fresh oil that I've put in since we had the oil leak, so it shouldn't be too dirty. So I'll just let that drain away until it's almost stopped, and then I'll get the oil filter cap removed. Okay, so that stream of oil has slowed right down now. I've just inserted my oil filter cap socket. This is a 74mm 14 flute socket, and I'm going to go ahead and crack this loose. We should be able to just remove this by hand now. I'm expecting some oil to drip out of here, but not much. Yeah, that's not too bad. Just drain that into the pan. Now let's have a look at this oil filter. Okay, so nothing in the oil filter cap, which is a good start. Now, good sign is that this oil filter isn't crushed. If it's been in the car way too long, this would be, you know, it wouldn't be in one piece, it wouldn't be in as good a shape as this, and it looks quite clean as well. So I'd say this has probably had an oil change fairly recently. So yeah, I guess we should have a look inside of it now and see if we see any chunks. No, I can't really see anything. No, this looks good to me. So yeah, quite pleased with that really. I mean, if the IMS bearing was going out on this thing, then this thing would just be full of shavings. So yeah, fairly confident that our dual row IMS bearing is absolutely fine. And so we'll get the new oil filter ready for reinstallation. So just going to remove this O-ring from the oil filter cap. I've gave the oil filter cap a good clean out. Now we can install our nice new fresh oil filter. Should just push into place. There we are. Now we'll get our new O-ring seal and dip that into some fresh oil and get this into place. We have to make sure it seats on the correct sealing ring not on the threads of the cap, otherwise you'll have a huge oil leak. Now I wouldn't usually, but because we can in our case, because the oil filter is mounted at the bottom of the engine like that, we can actually fill this up with some fresh oil as well, just to prevent a dry start. There we go, that'll do. Let's get this now mounted back on the engine. Okay, let's get it started by hand first. And then we can get our socket on here and torque this down to 25 Newton meters. There we are. That's that oil filter torque down. And now we can get the oil drain plug cleaned up and new crush washer installed. Bizarrely enough, we have two washers on here for some reason. No idea why, but let's get these both removed. So that's the drain plug nice and clean, and that's the new crush washer in place. Let's get this reinstalled now. Again, we'll just get it started by hand before getting a torque wrench on here and torquing it down to 50 Newton meters. Yes, 50 Newton meters. I know it does sound like a lot for an oil drain plug, but that's what the specs call for. There we are. Guess that didn't feel too tight. It will just give things a good clean down now, just to help identify any leaks if they may occur. And that should be us done. Underneath here now, new oil filter reinstalled, oil drain plug reinstalled with new crush washer. Now we just need to fill up with some fresh oil. Now then, when it comes to filling up with fresh oil, these engines take around 9 litres. So I'm going to put the entirety of this 5 litre container in. I'm then going to put about another 3 litres or so, and then I'll check on the physical dipstick. There's one bottle down. There we go, it's about 7.5 litres in, I think, so far. I'm just going to check the physical dipstick and see if we're even measuring on it. Now bear in mind as well, the car is up in the air, so it's not going to read as accurate as it would if the car was on the floor. You know, the engine is slightly tilted forward, but I want to get it somewhere close just so I can fire the engine up and then go underneath and then check for any oil leaks. As long as it's between the minimum and the maximum, we should be fine to start. Okay, so it's actually registering pretty much on the minimum. However, oil will have to circulate, so I'm going to get this up to the maximum. I think probably another litre at least, and then we should be fine to start up the engine. We can get underneath and then check for any leaks. There we go, that's another litre added. So then I fired the engine up, checked underneath, oil, drain plug and oil filter, no leaks, which is great. So now that the car is back on the ground, I'm just going to check the oil level again. I anticipate I'm going to have to add a little bit more, maybe another ½ litre or so, but yeah, let's check that oil dipstick and let's get it topped up to the maximum. Okay, so oil is just past the halfway point, so I'm going to add another just less than ½ litre. Usually, or typically, between the minimum and the maximum is around a litre, so I'm going to add just less than ½ litre and then we should be bang on the max mark then. Yep, bang on the maximum now. Perfect. Which makes sense because there's around a litre left in here, so 10 litres minus 1 litre, that means 9 litres. So yeah, like I said, takes about 9 litres for an oil change. Well then, first proper job done on the cheap Porsche Boxster S. We now know we have a healthy engine in theory. I was getting quite a few comments on previous videos about the fact that the previous owner used this on track, or at least he used it as a bit of a, you know, a bit of a track toy. People were saying that it's been, you know, absolutely thrashed within an inch of its life. I really don't think that's the case. As long as you properly warm up an engine, and I guess properly cool down to a degree as well, generally you're fine, as long as you do regular oil changes and all the rest of it. It is to my belief that these engines, you know, in these cars, they like to be revved out. Typically, you know, if you baby these engines, you know, if you only drive them around, you know, in the lower RPMs, that is when it's more common for the IMS bearing itself to fail. So if you're keeping it in the upper RPMs, generally, you know, you're actually better off for the IMS bearing. So yeah, I think we have a healthy engine. I'm happy to proceed with, you know, doing all the other things that need doing on this car. Like I said, I did want to check the oil filter first, make sure we didn't have any shavings in it, and we don't, so we're good. But yeah, like I said, first job done, we can move on to the exciting stuff next. I want to thank you all for watching. Give this video a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so. I'll see you all in that next one.